It is 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Western European Time, 10 p.m. Central European Time, 11 p.m. Eastern European Time, midnight further Eastern European Time. It's Monday, Thursday, and we are live on YouTube. So welcome to all my viewers, and God bless you. There are a few people in here already, I believe. Yes, we have a few people in here, and that's great. Uh, so I hope that you will all get a nice Easter. I hope you get some time to rest and hang out with family and friends. And before we begin looking at today's starting stories, uh, let me just say that if you want to support my work, you can send a super chat. Just click the little dollar sign right under the chat and send whatever amount you want. I will read out all super chats in the live stream, but please keep it PG-13 since I don't want to get flagged. Also, you can donate through PayPal and Patreon or by ordering some of my merchandise. Just check out the links in the information box under this live stream. So now there are 10 people watching. And that's great. And as you know, today it's Maundy Thursday. So what is Maundy Thursday? Maundy Thursday is the first day before Easter. The word Maundy is a shortened form of the Latin word mandatum, which means command. And which command is that? That is the command Jesus gave on the first day before he was crucified and resurrected. And this is the command. It's from the Gospel of John, chapter 13, verse 34. A new command I give you: love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. That's what Maundy Thursday is about, and let us all remember and honor this new command. Maundy Thursday was also the day when Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. And Maundy Thursday has also been known in English as Share Thursday, from the word share, meaning clean or bright. And interestingly enough, in Swedish, Maundy Thursday is called skärtorsdag, torsdag being Thursday, and skärn an archaic word for wash. Jesus' washing of the disciples' feet is described in the Gospel of John, chapter 13. So I'll read John chapter 13, verses 1 till 17. It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. The evening meal was being served, and the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "A person who has had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." So let us remember the importance of this day. And we have now 17 people in the chat or in the live stream. That's great. So thank you all for being here. And Tyrant Tutelli just sent me a super chat. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. And Tyrant Tutelli says, Hey Swede, long time no seen. Much support to you, my friend. Hope all is well. What do you think of the yuan possibly taking over the US dollar? Thanks. Uh, I'm not sure, Tyrone Tutelli. Do you mean in international trade or do you mean in the US? So please explain and maybe we can discuss that. Uh, So, let's see. I would like to talk a little about US President Donald Trump and his achievements. And I'm not only referring to his political achievements, but also his cultural achievements. I mean, did you hear about the reboot of the TV show Roseanne? Roseanne, who used to be, well, that was a working class show when I was a kid. She is now a Trump supporter. And apparently, this is not only true about the character Roseanne, but also about the actress playing Roseanne. Isn't that great? She even responded to Jimmy Kimmel about the stupidity of the left of today, if I didn't misunderstand something. Apparently, the ratings of the rebooted Roseanne are great too. I guess Hollywood and the movie industry should know this by now. I have not forgotten what he did to Last Man Standing, a show that was making money. Carol Worth says, "Thank you for the reading, Yay." Well, thank you for listening. Uh, and Radestisan says, "Hi there. Did you see the Pope declare there is no hell? I haven't seen any declarations from Pope Francis recently, but well, to put it this way, I am not anti-Catholic, but I'm not very fond of Pope Francis. I think he's more of a leftist than anything else." Tyrant Tueteli says, "I have been hearing the talks with the Chinese leader and the North Korean leader, maybe getting rid of the US dollar. I mean, China does have most oil in the world." They do? Okay. I don't know about that. I think isn't the U.S. working on becoming oil independent by well through domestic oil, or did I get that wrong? Uh, I think uh, I think we should be careful about China too, for different reasons. Uh, La Resistance in today's Drudge report. Okay, I will check that out. That sounds interesting. So the Swedish National Board of Health and Welfare recently launched a leaflet called "Information to you who are married to a child." The leaflet was in Swedish. Something tells me that it would have been better to launch this leaflet in Arabic. After a storm of criticism, the leaflet was removed. However, one of the things that the leaflet said was that you're not allowed to have sex with someone under the age of 15 in Sweden, even if you happen to live together and even if you have children together. The leaflet stated that an underage wife would probably be recommended to move out by the welfare services. As I understand it, the leaflet said that it is inappropriate that someone under 15 years lives with a man that she has been married to, more or less voluntarily or forcibly. This is pretty typically Swedish. Instead of stating the simple fact that this is illegal in Sweden, and if you do this, you will go to jail and you might get deported, the leaflet calls it inappropriate. But after heavy criticism in the media and on social media, the leaflet was retracted. Supposedly, it had to be worked on. Well, duh, what do you think? La Resistance, I think there are I mean, I think there are saved Catholics as well as there are saved Lutherans and saved Anglicans and saved evangelicals. Although I have a lot of disagreements when it comes to what you could call Catholic teachings or Catholic dogma. There's a lot of stuff there that I wouldn't agree with, but I don't think all Catholics are going to hell or something like that. I think there are many Christ-centered Catholics too. Tyrant Tuateli says, "I think China makes about $116 billion of oil export. Hopefully, the United States can start drilling its own oil, but with so many rules and regulations with the EPA and other groups." Yeah, you're right about that, or I think you're right about that. And that's actually a good point. That if the United States or well the West should if the West don't want to be dependent on Chinese oil or on Middle Eastern oil, Drilling in the US sounds like a really great idea, actually. And, well, in short, that's my take on it. So, we have to talk about the UK again. Now they say that Canadian right winger Lauren Southern is banned from entering the UK for life. I don't know what to think about Lauren Southern and her opinions. I'm not really sure where she stands, but I do know what to think about this ban. This ban is stupid. The reason for the ban is stupid. Lauren Southern was supposedly banned because she said that, quote, Allah is gay, close quote. That's supposedly racist. Well, I wonder if she had been banned for saying Jesus is gay, or I don't really wonder. I sincerely doubt that would have gotten her banned. And Tommy Robinson is suspended from Twitter again for hateful conduct. Twitter declined to say for how long the suspension will continue. I wish I was surprised. But I'm not. Sadly, this seems to be the new normal here. La Resistance says you need to study up on Catholic doctrines. Some may be saved. They are usually the bad Catholics. You know, La Resistance, we might very well agree on a lot of those things. But you know, I have studied I have studied Catholicism at least to some degree, and I really disagree with a lot of these with a lot of these doctrines. Uh, but I think it's actually too harsh to say that all Catholics would go to hell or something like that. And maybe, well, you know, if you put Christ in the center, if you accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, you are saved. That's the way I see it. And I mean, I've been rumored by some to be an anti-Catholic evangelical, but I have to disappoint you. I'm not that anti-Catholic, and I would rather have evangelicals, Lutherans, Catholics, Anglicans, Calvinists, what have you. I would rather have that we celebrate that we're all saved through Jesus Christ, and also that we realize that we have to stand up together against against Islam and against political correctness. Well, that's kind of an inner feud within Christians in the West too. Uh, Carol Worth says, "Yes, Jay, I agree." Alice says Judas was a Christian as well. You know, actually, I've been thinking about Judas lately, and I mean, for a long time I took it for granted that Judas went to hell, but actually, I don't know. I mean, maybe he repented right before he hung himself, and in that case, judgment is not up to me. Judgment is up to God, so I don't know. I would be happy to meet Judas in heaven too. And I'm looking forward to having Easter dinner tomorrow. That will be great. I intend to make this week in Sweden tomorrow anyway. And I intend to live stream on Saturday. On Sunday, of course, I don't really intend to do much. I think I'll go to church on Monday. I mean, I assume there is church on Sunday, but Monday is like more important in this case. Tyrone Tutelli says, the left can talk bad about Jesus Christ, but Muhammad was married to a 9-year-old girl. Where's the common sense in this? I don't think there's a common sense to this, Tyrone. I think there is sort of a twisted logic to this, and the twisted logic is that the left and Islam both oppose Western civilization, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think that's how they see it, and I think the left. I mean, they're not going to listen to this. I wish they did, but if they did, they wouldn't be the left anymore. But the left should study the history, the modern history of Iran, and what happened there. The left allied with the Muslims or the Islamists or whatever you want to call it to depose the Shah, and they deposed the Shah. And what happened after that? After that, Muslims went after the left. Where is the Iranian left today? They don't live in Tehran. They live in Stockholm and Los Angeles and maybe in Ottawa or in Paris. So I think they should learn by that. But you know, I was once a leftist, and I always searched. I was always looking for truth. I always wanted to know what was actually true. So I left the left, to put it that way. So really, when I say I want the left to be open to different perspectives and to look at the facts, some do, and they leave the left. And the ones who stay in the left are kind of the hardcore leftists. The core people, they won't leave. And you have people who've been doing this for 50 years. They're not going anywhere. And they are completely emotional, or completely, what do you call it? Completely brainwashed in what I call 68 ideas. The 1968 generation in Sweden, that was the people. Well, that's cultural radicals or cultural Marxists, whatever you want to call it. Oh, David Norton just sent me a super chat. Thank you very much for your generosity. And he says, "Keep up the good work. Have a great Easter and God bless." Oh, thanks a lot, David Norton. I appreciate it, and I will carry on. And a great Easter to you too, and God bless you. Carol Worth says, "We call it Resurrection Day, not Easter, which is pagan." That's I didn't know about that. I mean, I've actually didn't know about this linguistic discussion. I've only heard Easter, but I noticed that some of my American Facebook friends who are Christians talk about Resurrection Day. So okay, now I know why. I'll try to remember that. So we'll see. Maybe I'll start using different terms. Laurie P says, "I agree, Carol Worth." Yeah, okay. Resurrection Day. Well, have a happy Resurrection Day, or Easter, or Pesach. Let's see. Archie Demble says, "In Poland during weekend we had a proper Eastern meal on Monday, traditional water Monday, Slavic traditional day." I have a almost Polish family, not really, but sort of Polish in-laws, people married to people, or people who are, well, together with people in my family, and I heard something about that. No, that was Polish Christmas. I'm confusing you. Something about not eating meat until Christmas Day or something like that. But that's might be for a different live stream. So what do you do for Easter in Poland, Archie? Traditional water Monday? What does it mean? You only drink water, or what? So, uh, but this Roseanne thing, maybe I was a little unclear. I mean, I know Roseanne, the show, that's still, as far as I know, she's still supposed to be working class. And what I've seen when I've been to the States is that actually Trump is popular with the working class. And I understand that completely because, okay, he's a wealthy businessman, but he's also, how do you put it nicely? He gets things done, and he doesn't correspond to all these crazy identity politics ideas. And I just wish we could get a Trump in Europe, or we need several Trumps. And I mean, I don't think Trump is perfect in any way, but I'm really happy that he was elected president. I guess I'll go on a short Trump rant right now until someone tells me to do otherwise. If Hillary would have won, I know there were a lot of people who were more worried about Hillary winning than about Trump losing. Or I mean, if she would have won, there would have been World War III. I'm not kidding you. And I know there were a lot of people in the US and all around the world who were praying for Trump to win, and he did. I think that was a miracle, really. Alice says, "You have Jimmy Åkesson." Well, actually, I want Jimmy Åkesson to be Prime Minister of Sweden. And okay, the proposed constitutional changes in Sweden have been stopped for now, or they've been postponed until after the election, because Sweden's pseudo conservatives, the moderate coalition party, they sort of retracted. Is that the word? I think so. They sort of retracted and said that we need to have a parliamentarian inquiry on this before we can do anything about this. However, I don't trust them, but I'm happy that the freedom of the press is safe for now, and we'll see what happens after the election. And if they do something after the election, they will have to wait another 4 years. So we'll see. But we have to have our eyes on Sweden too. Leonardo Russo says, "Sir, good evening. Have you thought about making Bible theme videos too? Giving speeches or explaining some Bible verses?" Actually, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I should do that. Uh, I have studied the Bible for the last four. I guess you could say I've studied the Bible for the last 4 years, pretty regularly, and apologetics is one of my passions. I was thinking that I should become an apologetic. Maybe I am becoming that to some extent, so maybe I should do that. That's a good idea. Tyrone says, Roseanne is a funny woman and a huge Trump supporter. Uh, except for her being married to Tom Arnold at one time, lol. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, she's not married to him anymore, I think. Archie Demble says, we pour the water to the meaning that poor girl woman will marry. I'm not really sure I'm getting what you mean, Archie Demble there, but there's something with marriage and water. Okay. Let's see. Crash Mool says, how do you know about Swedish giving term on? How do you know about Swedish giving term on child marriage? Uh, what do you mean? I mean, the Swedish leaflet was launched by the National Board of Health and Social Services, but they retracted once they were criticized. And the problem with a lot of Swedish authorities is that there are a lot of activists working at these authorities. They are confusing their role as public servants with their role as being activists. So instead of following the law, they try to change society in a cultural radical way. I don't like it, but it's nothing new. It's been going on for decades. About 15 years ago, I think, there were campaigns on Swedish TV about climate change or about man-made climate change, and there were Swedish authorities who were behind this campaign on commercial TV. They bought commercial time for tax money. So it's really crazy, but that's what you can expect in Sweden. I should write about that in my book, because I'm writing a book. I like to say that. By the way, check out my web pages. I did a few changes today. I added some more pictures. For instance, you can check out my merchandise there. I added picture of all the merchandise, so it should be a little more fun to look at that. Let's see. Alice says it was an order from the Socialist Party. Yeah, well, if you're referring to the leaflet, well, yeah, you could say that. It was from the Löfven government, so it's the Social Democrats and the Green Party, but to me, I guess I consider them all cultural radicals. Laurie P says, is Malmö the most heavily Islamized area in Sweden? Or the most dangerous city? I saw a video on it and it looks scary. Well, I could tell you this. I haven't been much to Malmö. I've only been there once, waiting for the train to Copenhagen. As I understand it, there are areas in Malmö that really are no-go areas. You had the police station in Rosengård in Malmö that was attacked with hand grenades, and now the police wants to move the station because it's not safe there. So, as I like to point out, our prime minister, or well, the Swedish prime minister, Stefan Löfven, he can stand in Washington, D.C. all day long and claim that we have no-go zones in Sweden. But the Swedish police thinks it's not safe to have a police station in Rosengård, Malmö. I trust the Swedish police on this one. So I think there are areas that are dangerous, obviously. And there are places in Sweden, in Malmö, also in Stockholm, where I wouldn't go in with a visible camera, because people have tried that before and been attacked. And I would be a one man, a one guy who I could be attacked by a whole bunch of people. I mean, I'm not that stupid. I might someday go and film in some of these areas, but in that case, I would do it very discreetly and I wouldn't say a word. I don't know. Lori P says, "Will your book be an ebook?" I will definitely look into publishing it both as an ebook and as a print book. And the idea is to, well, the idea for me is to just self-publish it through Amazon. But if a publisher shows up and wants to help out with that, that would be nice. Lori P says Malmö sounds like Dearborn, Michigan to me. Yeah, I saw a video from the Arab festival in Dearborn. Maybe you were the one who shared it actually in the comments, and that was pretty awful the way things were there. Alice says Swedish Democrats are Jewish but get called Nazis by the cultural Marxists, and that's ironic. Well, yeah, there are some Jews in the Sweden Democrats who are in pretty high positions. The Sweden Democrats support Israel, but the left don't care. They will call them Nazis anyway because they call anyone who disagrees with them Nazis. And maybe there were one or two Nazis when they founded the Sweden Democrats. I don't know. That's possible. But if you look at their policies today, they they're not Nazis. I mean, that's just stupid. I mean, there are a lot of other things I could say about them, what I don't like about them, but they're not Nazis. I think they're way too left wing. I still want people to vote for them because they are the only ones who really were against the proposed changes of the Swedish constitution. No, Paul Wilson, I'm not scared. But if you really want me to read out a comment, you can always send me a super chat. However, if you write something crazy, I might not read it. I might just thank you for the donation. I'll have another look at your comment. Well, really, I'm not. Depending on what you mean, Paul Wilson, I might read out that one. But well, if you call me scared, that's kind of like asking me not to read it out. Stephen Cray says, "It makes me laugh when I hear people say there aren't any no-go zones. I was brought up in Luton, England, and know firsthand they are." Yes, I agree. And I live in Oslo, Norway since 2006. And when I moved here, it was kind of fine. There were some areas that were a little more troubled or vulnerable, as the popular term is in Sweden. But recently there has been more problems in Oslo. Oslo is getting the same kind of problems as you have in many Swedish cities, and I'm really sorry to see that, but that's what's going on. And I know the same thing is going on in England or in the UK, and I think it's really sad. And I mean, that's just a situation that has to be addressed. That's just the way it is. If it's in Luton, if it's in Rosengård, Malmö, Rinkeby, Stockholm, part of Oslo, doesn't matter. We have to talk very candidly about what's going on and look at how to solve this situation. To sweep things under a rug and pretend there's nothing to see here, that will not solve any problems. Or to start putting critics in prison like in the UK, and that's even going on in Sweden now. I mean, it only makes things worse. Not only that you are silencing people, it's like you're putting a pressure on society. And what happens when this boiler, or whatever to call it, what happens when it explodes? And if there is one thing I fear, well, apart from that I actually do fear Islamization, I also fear the reaction. I fear that the longer we wait, the worse it will be. And I don't want to get. I mean, I want a sane response, I don't want some crazy racist response that goes out to kill anyone who is slightly dark or something like that. I mean, I have no idea what might happen, but I think that we have to address things now instead of waiting longer. Paul Wilson says, like I said, get armed folks or just get raped and your heads chopped off. 54 countries were not Islamic, but they are now. Islam equals submission. Well, basically, Paul Wilson, I do agree with you. I agree to the extent that I think that law abiding citizens should be allowed to own and carry arms. And I think that would make people think twice before doing crazy stuff. Uh, and I agree that Islam is submission. Islam means submission, and it's submission under a totalitarian ideology. And I mean, all of these countries that are Islamic today were not before. Northern Africa and the Middle East was a Christian culture. That was what you call it, a high culture, and it turned into, well, just terrible countries because of Islam. Tyrant Tutelis sent another super chat. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. And he says, random question here, Swede. Uh, did the Swedish fish candy derive from Sweden? Just curious. Actually, I don't know. I mean, I know about the Swedish fish, and I know it's a big thing in the States. That's one of the few Swedish things I saw when I was in the Midwest a while back. I saw the Swedish fish and the Swedish gingerbread, and it might come from Sweden originally. I don't know. I think so, but actually, I'm not sure. William Marshall says, I think the Quran needs to be outlawed. Actually, I don't want to outlaw books, not even the Quran. I think the Quran needs to be studied not only by the Muslims, actually by some of them too. Some of the Muslims who study the Quran end up leaving Islam when they realize what it actually says, but it also needs to be studied by the opponents of Islam, because, well, we need to know our enemy, and right now with enemy I mean the teaching of Islam. Uh, let's see. Leonardo Russo says, Sir, do you think paganism is growing in Sweden? Actually, I don't know. Uh, I think there was maybe a pagan wave a few decades ago. I haven't heard anything about it lately. Let's see. Tyrone says, Americans love the candy and gingerbread. Can't forget about the meatballs. Well, yeah, the meatballs. Yeah, Swedish meatballs is great. When I have the time, I make them myself. Laurie P says, Look, I agree. Look how countries are pro-Islam and allow them to get away with rape, beating people up. We need to speak up and yes, arm ourselves. Yes, I saw a meme on Facebook. One of my American friends shared this one, and it was from someone in Italy. And this woman in Italy said that, dear Americans, I have been watching from Italy your anti-gun marches or whatever she called it, and please take advice from a European. Once they remove the Second Amendment, they will go after the first. And she also said, we now have people in the UK being put in prison for tweets and Facebook posts. I don't know exactly which cases she was referring to, but I know things like that are going on. Alice says paganism is growing in Sweden because they call it atheism. Oh, that's possible. Alice. I used to say that the biggest faith in Scandinavia is the faith in something or the belief in something. A lot of people, most people, are not hardcore atheists. There are a lot of people who think that there is probably some kind of supernatural being, some kind of God, but they don't know which one. They don't. They, so I call it the belief in something, and I think that's kind of that's kind of the we are not made to be atheists. I mean, the way human beings are wired, we look for meaning. The funny thing is, I was an organized atheist when I was a leftist, and I was at a meeting, and there was an author who was talking about his book, and he said that human beings are wired to look for meaning. And he said this to a bunch of atheists, and I think he was an atheist himself. I'm not sure about that, but I think so. But the funny thing is, if we are wired to look for meaning, I'm just saying maybe God put that in us. I think so, but I don't know. I say I think so. Archie Demble says Polish meatballs are better. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to try your meatballs last time in Poland, but maybe I'll try to remember to try that for next time, Archie. Maybe I'll go to maybe I'll go to Warsaw instead next time. There are a few places in Poland I would like to visit. Warsaw is one of them. Krakow, of course. I think Krakow was the old capital, and I think if you know Polish history, I think you do. I think it was King Sigismund who was king of Poland and Sweden. I think he was the one who moved the capital to Warsaw. Or am I completely in the wrong here now? He was the post in Sweden, by the way. But so Sweden and Poland has this shared history through the House of Vasa, because well, his mother was a Polish princess. But I'm sort of digressing a little here now. I'm a history geek. Let's see. Leonardo Russo, sorry. By the way, congratulate me. I married last week. That's the reason why I kind of disappeared last week. Oh, congratulations. That's great. That's wonderful. I hope you will have a happy life together. So I hope you got a good wife, and I hope you'll be a good husband. So we've been on for about 35 minutes. I was almost on time today, almost. I still need to learn to start a live stream a little before it's supposed to start to get it all going in time. I assume you can all hear me fine since no one has complained, and when people don't complain, they are usually happy. If someone didn't already know, I bought these headphones when I was in Poland, and that was great. I mean, I got them for what I thought was a really great price, and they seem to be working fine. So I'm happy about that. Tyrant Utelli sent me another super chat. Well, you're very generous, sir, so thank you very much. And he says, Bible study, Bible verses on your channel. Gotta go, but have a happy Easter, brother. Still showing support for you on your channel. Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. And, well, happy Easter and Resurrection Day to you too. And, well, see you some other time. Archie Demble says, you conquered us in 1600. I know there was a war going on back in 1600, because I think Sigismund, or in Polish it's Sigmund, I think he was the post in Sweden in 1599, and I know there was some fighting going on in Sweden the next year, so that makes sense. Let's see. Leonardo Russo says, no, Paul, we conservatives must marry and have children. If men choose a woman by her character and personality instead of looks, they would be happy. I agree completely, Leonardo. And Leonardo, I got your email. I've just been busy, so I haven't had time to respond. Or, well, I responded to your email, but I haven't had time to respond on Skype yet, but I will. So I haven't forgotten about you. I'm sorry, I've just been busy. And I agree what you say. Neither men nor women should go after a spouse for their looks. I mean, of course, I'm human. It's nice to have a good-looking spouse, of course, but looks, that's kind of a temporary thing. The character, that's the important thing. The character, the personality, and also sharing faith and goals, actually becoming one flesh. And when I say one flesh, I'm not talking about in the physical sense. I mean, it's that too, but also that you are of one mind, that you are pulling in the same direction, that you have the same goals. I have seen couples where one in the marriage is a Christian and the other one isn't, and That's difficult. Let's put it that way. Well, Paul, I think there are. Oh, I can read what you're saying. Women's character. Well, that's about five good women out of 350 million in Europe. Most. Yeah. Okay. Uh, I don't think that. I don't. I think there are more than five good women in Europe. Really. Although I will say this: political correctness and third wave feminism, which is a part of the political correctness, I think that has messed up both women and men in Western Europe. To some extent, maybe also in Central Europe. But there are good women, even in Scandinavia. I think there are good women in Scandinavia too. I mean, I don't have to worry about that because I'm engaged. So I'm just saying, God always saves the rest. No, not the rest. Well, God always saves some people. He always keeps some people. So there will always be some good people out there. Uh, but of course, I would agree that there are a lot of messed up women in Europe. There are also a lot of messed up men in Europe. And, well, that's political correctness did that. And all these crazy policies. And that's not only in Europe, that's all over the West. You can see it even in the US and in Canada. And that's really sad. But the only thing we can do about that, or what we can do about that, well, of course, we can pray, we can be role models, we can set an example for a different kind of life. And that means both men and women need to be very careful about who they marry. So, as Laurie P says here, I agree, Swede, you must not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Yes, I agree. You need to be careful about who you marry for that reason too. And I know, of course, there are some situations that are, well, difficult to sorry to solve. I mean, in some cases, you have two non-Christians getting married, and then one of the spouses become a Christian, and of course, then you have a different situation. And Paul said, if the unbeliever wants to have a divorce, then let the unbeliever have their divorce. But if not, stay with them and sanctify them through being married to them, something like that. I'm taking that from the top of my mind, so I'm not sure what it actually says in the English version of the Bible. William Marshall says liberalism has done the damage to society. Exactly, that's the point I'm trying to make. Uh, Paul Wilson says it's all over the West. 85% of all divorce is done by women in the West. I don't know about the exact numbers. I have been told that women are the ones who initiate most of the divorces. That's possible. Absolutely. Alice says, so Swedes doesn't get married. There is a sad truth to that. There are some Swedes who are still getting married. Of course, many of the people in Sweden who become married are Christians. And of course, you have Swedish citizens who are Muslim, for instance, who get married. But when it comes to non-religious people in Sweden, most of them, I think most of them, they don't get married, just live together. Although I know of some exceptions to that rule too. And premarital cohabitation might sound like all fun and games, but studies show that that's not a good way to live, especially not to bring children into that mix. And I mean, you can say that you'll be careful and you won't have any children, but you can't really control that. So the best thing is to get married and to not have any premarital cohabitation. Lisa Leto says, does Poland have a new Holocaust law? Maybe I should let the Poles respond, but I could give you my take on this. This is where I kind of differ a little with the Poles. A little. Let's take where I agree with the Poles first. I'll start in that end. I agree with the Poles that the resistance in Poland, well, it was a patriotic resistance against a Nazi occupation. Poles were decidedly anti-Nazi. And the resistance movement in Poland said that it is un-Polish or unpatriotic to attack the Jews. That wasn't allowed in the Polish resistance. So the resistance movement in Poland actually fought both against the Nazis and against Jew hatred. And the concentration camps, the death camps in Poland were not Polish. They were put there by the German occupants. I mean, Auschwitz is not a Polish name; it's a German name. I was to one of these concentration camps when I was in Poland. It was named Stutthof, a German name. So, with all of this, I agree with the Poles that claiming that these camps were Polish, that is falsifying history. So let's now take in short where I differ with Poles. Or not with all Poles, but with many Poles. Where I differ, if I understood the law correctly, I differ when it comes to not allowing people to call it Polish death camps. I mean, I think it's incorrect to do so, but I think you should be allowed to make incorrect statements. I don't think you should have laws on speech. I mean, apart from, you shouldn't be, I mean, the limits for freedom of speech is incitement. That's where the limit is, if you ask me. So I think you should be allowed to make incorrect statements. And that's where I differ with that law. But apart from that, I agree with all the facts. I agree that Poland was not a Nazi country. The death camps were not Nazi. And sure, there might have been an anti-Semite or two in Poland back then. There might be one or two now too. But it's not a Nazi country from what anything I've seen. Carol Worth says, "You are so right on, Jay." Thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words. So let's see. So Alice says, "School learn to be good single atheist slaves." Actually, there is a concept in Sweden called statsindividualism, state individualism, and that means that Swedes don't depend on each other. Swedes only depend on the state or on the government. If you have a problem, you don't talk to your family, you don't talk to your friends, you don't talk to your neighbors, you go to the welfare office. I mean, that's the theory. Of course, that's not correct in every single case, but that's the theory. And that was something that they started in Sweden back in the early 1970s. There is a documentary on it called The Swedish Theory of Love. I have looked for it and it's difficult to find, but I think it's still on YouTube, subtitled in Croatian or something. I'm not sure. I've seen it. And what they did was they destroyed the family structure. Because the idea was to make sure that women or wives would not depend on their husbands. Old people should not depend on their adult children. Children and teenagers and young adults should not depend on their parents, and so on. By expanding the welfare state, I mean, that was really what happened, and we could argue whether that was the plan or not, but I think it was in this case. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory. I think it was pretty outspoken by the socialists. Let's see what Archie Demble says. "Probably if someone will say that, you will get a hard beat up. If you say Polish death camp." Well, Archie, I wouldn't dream of saying Polish death camp in Poland or anywhere else. I mean, apart from actually an actual quote, I can quote what people are arguing about. But as I think you've understood, I consider these death camps to be German death camps put there by the Nazi occupation force. And the difference between Poland and many other European countries of the same time is that the Poles, they fought really fiercely against the occupation, as far as I understand. I don't know of any other European country that fought as hard against the German occupation as Poland did. I know there was some fighting going on in Denmark, there was some in France, there was a little in Norway, but I shouldn't say too much about Norway because I'm kind of a guest in this country. But I think, and of course, you could argue the British, they were never occupied, so that's a completely different discussion. And you have the Finns who were able to fight off the Soviet invasion, but that's also different. Leonardo Russo says, Women don't like weak men who put them on a pedestal. I think that's right. Uh, I love my wife, but she is not my God. God is first in my heart, and she fits in the second place. Leonardo, I think that's the way it has to be. I mean, if you want to have a good and stable marriage, I think that's the way to go. Paul Wilson says one battle in Poland was 700 Polish against 45,000 Germans. 3 days the Polish lasted. Yeah, I think they fought really hard. Uh, and we've been here for 50 minutes now. That's great. And I'm very happy about all of you being here. I'm happy about the conversation, even about the things I might not agree with. Uh, if you really want me to read something up, send me a super chat. But anyway, and thanks to everyone who sent me super chats. That's wonderful. Uh, and I just want to say that you know, without you, there is no me. Or I mean, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Uh, so I'm really happy about you giving me this opportunity. And I'm not only talking about the super chats. I'm also talking about just hanging out with me, conversation, all different kind of good stuff. And speaking of which, Tyrone Tuetelli just sent another super chat. Thank you very much, sir. You're very generous this evening. And he says, what do Scandinavians think of interracial relationships marriages? I'm of English and Polynesian descent. Maybe I should find a nice Swedish woman. Tyrone, I think most Swedes wouldn't have a problem with that. Uh, However, if you're going to look for a nice Swedish woman, make sure she has sane opinions. Well, I'm not sure about your faith, but make sure you're equally joked. I mean, no matter what she looks like or what you look like, just make sure you're of the same mind. That's what I would say. But I don't think that should be a problem for you. If you would meet a Swedish woman, most of them I don't think aren't worried about that. But of course, there will be some who are, obviously. It's the same place, same thing everywhere. And Leonardo Russo, I agree with Carol Worth. I think what you're saying about your marriage is a biblical thing. That's the ideal that I'm aiming for too. So I'm happy to see that that's what you're doing or trying to do. So that's great. Um, Maybe I should say a few words about Sweden and what's been going on. I think it was last week I talked about my favorite moderate in the Swedish parliament, Hanif Bali, and how he was forced to leave the leadership of the party, and he was forced to stop tweeting, or well, he said he was going to stop tweeting, and he's been pretty silent since then, even on Facebook because I follow him there. But a few days ago, I saw that he was sharing something about the unattended migrants, the Afghans. Uh, so he might be back again. I don't know. I'm following him closely too to see what's going on. And I mean, actually, Hanif Bali is originally Iranian, but as far as I know, he is not. He is not even a non-practicing Muslim. He is more like an ex-Muslim, or I don't know if he was ever a Muslim that way. But anyway, but when it comes to Hanif Bali, actually, I think he should change his party affiliation. But I think he might have something going on that makes it very difficult for him to. I think he should go to the Sweden Democrats. You could argue some other of the parties too, but if he was going to pick a party that's actually that actually stands a chance in the election. So, so are you people here? Are you excited to celebrate? the resurrection of Christ or Easter, whichever term I should use. I'm not sure right now actually, but are, so are you excited to celebrate and for the Easter dinners and stuff like that? Carol Worth says yes. I'm happy to hear that. I'm looking forward to having some lamb tomorrow. Tyrone says I was baptized Mormon when I was 8. I still believe in God, but I don't attend any Sunday services. I still have yet to find the right church for me. Uh, yeah, well, I really hope you find a good church, Tyrone, and well, I'll pray for you to be directed in the right way. Alice says Hanif will become the biggest threat with his podcast. Oh, right. He's going to start a podcast? I saw something about that, but I sort of just saw it with like half an eye. So that's interesting. So I really need to keep an eye on that and see what's going on with that. That could be really interesting. And I wonder, in this case, I wonder if Hanif Bali, if he is taking a calculated risk now, if he knows that this might cost him his seat in the Swedish parliament. It might cost him his party membership, but he'll do it anyway, and that would be great. If he would stand up for himself this much, that would be wonderful. I need some water. So, my throat was getting dry. Tyron Tutelli says, I always give thanks to my Lord and Savior. Uh, my family is having a barbecue, but I gotta operate my store. Oh, okay. Well, I hope your store is successful. Whatever you're selling. Carol Worth says, "My mama used to make the best leg of lamb for Easter Sunday. Memories." Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Hopefully, I will celebrate Easter next year on the other side of the Atlantic. I assume I will. So I'll get an American Easter next year, but this year I'll go for a Scandinavian one. Although we are celebrating the same thing. I mean, at least in theory. So so I'm going to the UK in a not too distant future, and I will go to London. I will be there for 4 days, and I will live stream from London uh, a few weeks from now, uh, and hopefully I will have a studio guest, a friend of mine who is trying to start up an organization called Stop Islamization of Sweden. There is a Facebook page that someone else started, but that's more like an online discussion club. He's looking into actually starting an organization. I talked about it a week ago or something. Uh, so hopefully I will be able to have him as a studio guest in London because we will meet in London. He will travel from Sweden, I will travel from Norway, and we will share a hotel room in London. So that's great. Hopefully we will be let into the country. So when I get to the airport in England, if they ask me, I'll say vacation, and well, I'll give them as much information as necessary and as little as possible. That's what I'm thinking about the UK now. Not that I think I'm doing anything wrong, but you have to protect yourself. Lisa Leto says you go to church on Monday. In this case, I think I will on this Monday, uh, because this Monday is well, is a special day. Archie Demble says you should try Polish Smigus Dungus. I'm not sure what that is, but feel free to inform us. Uh, Paul Wilson says if you go near Scotland, you can stay at mine for free. Okay, good to know. I don't think I'll be able to go to Scotland on my next trip to the UK, but I hope I will get to visit Scotland later sometime. Let's see. Stephen Cray says Speaker's Corner. That's a thought. I'll think about that. That's a thought. Leonardo Russo says, I guess the best way against anti-Islamization is Christianization. Yes, I agree. I think that the Islamic invasion or the Islamization of the West started with the de-Christianization of the West. And the West is not completely de-Christianized, but it has been de-Christianized to an extent. And that started really with the French Revolution. And it's been going on since then. It started with sort of the French liberals, or whatever you call them. And then it went on to the socialists. And now it's all over the political spectrum. People who don't understand that our culture is built on Christianity. Western civilization is deeply rooted in Christianity. Without the Christian roots of the Western culture, if we just cut off the roots, you're killing Western civilization. And once that is done, we have no chance to withstand an Islamization, because secular liberalism, political correctness, all these ideas, they don't stand a chance against Islam, because a secular liberal is not willing to die for his or her beliefs, but a Muslim actually is. A Christian is too. And so, I mean, really, if the West is going to survive, we need Christ. That's sort of rhyme, but that's the way it is. Let's see. Tyron says, "Who is Hanif?" I can answer that, Tyron. Hanif is Hanif Bali, and he is a member of the Swedish Parliament for the Moderate Coalition Party, sort of the pseudo-conservative party of Sweden. And he is Iranian-born. He came to Sweden as a child, and he really was a child. He was sent to Sweden by his parents. His parents were some kind of communist insurgents in Iran, but he became a moderate in Sweden. And he is actually pretty much anti-Islam, as far as I understand. He even called Muhammad a pedophile on Twitter a few years ago, I think. And that stirred up a lot of controversy, and the left was accusing him of all kind of crazy stuff. To which he responded that if you have an alternative term for someone who an adult male who has sex with a 9-year-old girl, please tell me. But if you can't give me a good term for it, I'll just keep on calling him a pedophile. That's what Hanif Bali wrote on Twitter 2 or 3 years ago. So, well, I like him. As I said, he's my favorite. He is my favorite moderate in Sweden. Laurie P says, not every Christian will have to die for their faith in Jesus, but should be prepared to if need be. Never deny your Savior. Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I don't want to die for my faith, but if I have to, I have to. And I will pray and prepare for that is an actual possibility. As a Christian, I know that might very well happen. Leonardo Russo says, I loved Scotland. What a pretty place. I lived a good time there. I've never been to Scotland, but I've seen Scotland on TV. That's about it. And I mean on YouTube videos and stuff like that. But it looks wonderful. So I'd really like to go there one day. So hopefully I will be let into the UK also in the future, and then I can go to Scotland too. I can fly to, I don't know, Glasgow, Edinburgh. I don't know where your airports are, but I could go there one day. And we have 22 people in here. It's pretty stable around that number, I've noticed. And I'm really happy about the people who are in here. Thank you all for being here. And you know, without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So I'm really happy for your support. I'm happy that you're in the chat. And feel free to share this video to share this video on social media, to tell your friends, your family, whoever you think might be interested. I appreciate all of that a lot. Uh, let's see. Tyron says, "Thank you for that. Uh, I think that he will have a huge impact on Sweden." I think I saw something with Hanif Bali, and he said that when he was elected to parliament, he was told by the party leadership to conform. He was told that he couldn't be as outspoken as before, and to begin with, he tried to conform, but he couldn't live with himself, something like that. So he stopped. He stopped doing that. And Hanif Bali is actually one of the most popular moderates in Sweden, at least on social media. I think he had something like 80,000 followers on Twitter. In Sweden, that's a lot. The population of Sweden is 10 million, and I don't think there are many in Sweden who have that many Twitter subscribers or followers or whatever you call it. So when they are trying to silence him now, I think they are making a huge mistake. And if Hanif Bali would say, "I've had enough of this," and let's say Hanif Bali would decide to join the Sweden Democrats or any other party by that matter, he would bring a large chunk of these 80,000 subscribers with him, because I think a lot of people vote for him specifically. They don't necessarily vote for the moderate coalition party, but they vote for Hanif Bali. They will tick his name on the ballot paper, and they are, so I think that's a huge problem, or a huge mistake. Tyrone says, "Can't wait for you to visit the United States again. Hopefully we can meet up sometime. Would love uh, to buy you a beer or a burger. One of my favorite channels." Oh, thank you very much, Tyrone. I appreciate that a lot. Uh, and yeah, I can't wait to visit the United States again either. So I'm not sure when I'm going there next time, but I'm working on getting there again. Trust me on that one. Uh, and Carol Worth says, "Thank you so much, Jay. Always great to attend your live chat. Have a blessed Resurrection Day." Thank you very much, Carol, and well, have a blessed Resurrection Day, you too. It's great. It was great having you here. So thank you very much. Uh, Crash Mool says, "Just vote one party to get your way." Um, I'm not sure how to respond to that. I'm I don't really like party politics that way. I would prefer if we would vote for candidates rather than parties. Candidates who were directly elected by their voters, and whose seat in the Swedish parliament depends on their voters, not upon how many votes their party got. That would be a lot better. I think so. Uh, I guess more. I think in that way I prefer the American system. Then of course I know there are a lot of other stuff that could be discussed when it comes to that, but at least you vote for people. Uh, but yeah, I know you have the Republican Democrat divide and stuff like that. That's kind of a wasp's nest to get into. I know that, but still, I think you should run. You should run as an individual candidate. That's the system I would support. And I mean, I could not put myself on a party ticket because then I have to at least publicly agree with the party, and that's difficult. Alice says, "Great interaction with the viewers, one of the best live chats." I'm very happy to hear that. And Archie Demble says, "So when are you coming to Warsaw?" To be honest, Archie, I don't know. Uh, I have a planned trip to London, and after that, I don't really know where or when I'm going somewhere. So we'll see. But I'll sure let you know when I'm going to Warsaw. I'll tell you beforehand. Leonardo Russo says, God bless all of you guys. Leaving because tomorrow I must work. God bless all and good night. Well, God bless you too, Leonardo Russo, and good night to you. Tyrone sent another super chat. Thank you very much. And he says, any good book recommendations for this week? Uh, well, I was going to say the Bible, but apart from that, I'm trying to think of something in English. I'm kind of Actually, I'm reading a book right now called Counterfeit Gods, and it's about how we make other things gods in our lives, how we turn things into idols. Uh, so so far, it seems to be a good read. So you could read that one, uh, and these are pretty. It's not too thick either. I've been reading it for a while, but I usually read maybe once or twice a week when I'm on the metro or on a tram going somewhere in downtown Oslo. But that's what I'm reading right now. And I'm kind of mixing between secular literature, Christian literature, literature in English, in Norwegian, in Swedish. I kind of mix a lot of that stuff. I have a lot of books that I need to get read, but I don't know when I will have the time to do it. But you could look out Counterfeit Gods. Absolutely. It's by Tim Keller, I think that's his name. Uh, so I've been on for a little more than an hour now, and well, I think it's about time to wrap this up. So thank you all for hanging out with me in the live stream. If you have any closing comments or questions, well, this is the time. Uh, so I hope you all will have a wonderful Easter and Resurrection Day. And I'm decidedly doing this a little slow right now to see the reactions in the chat. William Marshall says, Happy Easter, everyone. I have to go. Well, Happy Easter to you too, William Marshall. Uh, but anyway, I intend to live stream on my usual time on Saturday, which is, let's see, it's 1 p.m. Pacific time, it's 2 p.m. Mountain time, it's 3 p.m. Central time, it's 4 p.m. Eastern time, it's 9 p.m. Western European time, it's 10 p.m. Central European time, it's 11 p.m. Eastern European time, and it's midnight further Eastern European time on Saturday. And the Saturday live stream is the one that I do every week. I mean, unless I really can't, unless I'm on an airplane, on a ferry, on a bus, something like that. But I will actually avoid getting on. I will try to make sure that I will always have that specific time open to do the live stream. So the Saturday one is my regular one, and I try to do one or two midweek live streams too. But those are more of like a pop-up thing. You never really know. But the Saturday one is the steady one, the one that I will always do. So you can check that out on Saturday if you want to. So until then, I just hope you have a happy Easter. And I intend to make This Week in Sweden tomorrow, so you can check that out when I upload that video. So now, really, it's just time for me to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the comments, for the questions, for the super chats, for all of this. And until next time, have a nice day and God bless.